Morning, Prasad. How are you?
Good, good. Good morning.
Good.
Sir.
I'm excited to have you up here. Serial entrepreneur. You've been, you're starting your third company right now. So first one, Get Loaded.
I didn't start that one though, but I was part of the leadership team in the later phases.
And then you have
Trucker Tools.
Trucker Tools, and now Q'd. So talk to me about the evolution a little bit that you've seen of kind of the problems that these startups that you've worked with have gone through, and what problems they've tried to solve throughout.
Most of the people know what these companies do, but Get Loaded was in the load board business. And when internet became very popular, that business came up and succeeded. I joined the team a later part of the growth, and we successfully exited selling to DAT. Then I started Trucker Tools when mobile phones became popular, and everything was becoming more digital, and everything is based off of the app, which Trucker Tools provided visibility and digital freight matching. We were first in many things in the industry at that time. Exited that business in 21, sold to Alpine Group. They're doing an amazing job. Then Q'd is an interesting problem.
Yeah, it is. We just spent, the CH team and Daniel talked about how they're using AI to solve problems, kind of at their whole company level across a broad swath of different options. And I think it translates nicely to what we're talking today with Q'd, in that you're tackling a very specific problem, right? Appointment scheduling, and I think anybody that's heard me do these interviews before, it's like I kind of come at this as the very interested child of this industry. I've been here in this industry now 5 years, but I'm constantly learning new things. And, I've known for a little while that, look, the yard is a problem. But at the same time, it's containment within kind of four walls and a predictable set of bays, docks, trucks that can be there, presents a lot of opportunity. And what you're doing with appointment scheduling, I think, is pretty interesting in that, the problem is just hidden from a lot of us, right?
Yes, it is. Most of the time, when you talk to whether a 3PL carrier, appointment scheduling is absolutely a manual process until this point. Our president Tom Curry started his career 18 years ago scheduling appointments, and most of the people have started their careers in that role, manually scheduling appointments. That process has never changed. And it's the most manual process in our industry. That's the first part. The second part is, when you talk about appointment scheduling with anyone outside our industry, they think, it can be complex. But when you talk to someone within our industry, appointment scheduling is by far the most complex. The reason is, everything is an exception in appointment scheduling. Every system is exception, every type of a load is exception. So scheduling requires a lot of work. And the thing that attracted me to this, there are two things. One, when you look at any 3PL or carrier and look at their costs, they probably spend in the top 2 or top 3 most expenses is in the appointment scheduling. Over 100 million man-hours are spent on this problem every year in our industry.
That's a hidden cost mostly, right? Because how much time did the Sonar teams up here talking about look how much easier we can make price discovery for you, the load matching that you did in the past is kind of done a lot of the same thing, but at the same time, the idea of getting your open table reservation to deliver your truck is still unsolved and a giant problem.
It is. And the problem is big in terms of the expense rate. But the other part that truly got me to this is, if you look at supply chain optimization, we've been talking about optimization ever since, right? And a lot of optimization stems from not having good appointments. So if you get a 2 a.m. appointment to deliver a load or pick up a load, mostly deliver, how are you going to optimize that? You can't ask a driver to time that thing to be there at 2 a.m. Most likely he'll be there the night before. and deliver it the next morning, which means there's dwell time, or there's going to be transition, waiting time and all of that affects that. And these poor appointments, most of the industry professionals know this. When they talk to a shipper and they know that they're not going to get good appointments, they actually bake that additional cost when they bid the load. So the cost of transporting freight is higher because of this. So the upstream problem, shipper is paying more for it. Downstream problem, drivers hate bad appointments. So, unless we fix this, you can't really create optimization.
Do you think that shippers really understand that problem at this stage? Is that well known? Because I've spent a lot of time with Rob Haddock, the former head of transportation at Coca-Cola, and he's talked about like going out and kind of on this mission to really talk about like, hey, being what we would call here at FreightWaves, being a shipper of choice is more than just paying the highest rates, right? It's about having driver facilities that make it a great place to at least drop off, but at the same time, staffing your dock with the things that are needed to unload your freight.
It is because, poor planning can have a lot of wait time, which disrupts that broker or carrier's next load. And it's not just the shipper, keeping a driver waiting for them, right? Dwell time is such a big thing that we always talk about. But it affects that carriers or brokers, other relationships with other shippers. So, this has a connected effect.
So I think, if you're submitting a bid, to win this lane, I think, what is it that everybody goes in and they're like, you know what, I'm just gonna bid for a 6 a.m. I want 6 a.m. delivery time, right? And if you've got, you're receiving 150 loads a day at this facility, like you can't have 150 6 a.m. appointments, right? When you have like one lumper on staff or whatever to do that.
You're right, and there is no one magic appointment for everyone.
Yeah.
Right. For you, 6 a.m. might be perfect. For me, 8 a.m. might be perfect because I have some other commitment before, right? So knowing these nuances, the user preferences, is extremely critical. And this is a space that can, we use AI today to automate the full appointments, and perfect for AI.
So if we're talking about, automated appointment scheduling, how does that work in a world that we just talked about is being defined by exceptions?
So, it's a complex problem to start with, right? So what we have done is we took layers out. So we created all these bridges to all the appointment scheduling systems. And basically looked at, hey, could we create sandboxes of, let's take a truckload or an LTL, take these in chunks that we can digest, automate those. And as we started doing it, it's been paramount because as you know, our philosophy has always been, we're never done building the product. And so this fits very well in that logic, right? As we started doing, when we first started, we said, hey, let's go one pick, one drop. And as soon as we spoke to our first customer, oh, by the way, this has 6 stops. All of a sudden, we do multi-stops. All of a sudden, we do LTL. All of a sudden, we can handle these other nuances. So that's the beauty of this.
That is the beauty of software, right? Is that you're never done. Despite what operations really hope that we can deliver something and get people get excited. I'm always like, well, now it's on to the next thing. Right? Now there's multi-stop. Now I have to factor in that my driver ran out of hours of service today, and that I can no longer deliver at 6 a.m. I now can deliver at 4 or something like that. So how it seems like something like this to be successful will need some sort of network effect, right? Because you ultimately are kind of betting on the fact that everybody's like exceptions create an opportunity for someone else. The guy that was not really gonna deliver at 2 a.m. anyways, like can now get his full night's sleep and get that 6 a.m. appointment that maybe didn't get shown up because that second multi-stop on that leg didn't get a chance to to make its appointment, right?
You touched on a very important point. So to add to this complexity, it's the runtime delays, right? A truck getting delayed at one stop or in transit causes more delays or more disruptions to appointments. Not necessarily delay, a truck could arrive early too, right? So, knowing these changes are affecting the data points, what our team has done is basically built a system that not only starts with, hey, I know you need a 6 a.m. appointment, but also look at in runtime, no, your driver can't make the 6 a.m. appointment, so we need to rebook that to 8 a.m. And by doing so, we're already keeping your on-time delivery scorecard with your shipper better, right? And it's better for the shippers too, because they don't like trucks showing up early or late. That's the reason why the planning is. Now, we all know, even in that mode, a dock employee may not show up, which causes disruptions, right? So this solution has so much of that real-time analysis that can create efficiencies at the dock. Ultimately, for everyone, you get shipper efficiency.
It feels to me like a solution like this, if you target, I think most of your career you've been selling products to 3PLs and carriers, right? So this is kind of something that really closely though starts and pretty quickly starts to involve shippers, because at least as I see the vision, right, is right now there's a pretty easy way for all three parties, broker, carrier, shipper in the transaction to kind of point the finger at each other and say, well, my guy was late. Well, your lumper didn't show up. Well, he didn't show up. There's like so many different, different opportunities to point the finger. And it's like, as you kind of pull those, opportunities to point the finger away, you start to, I think, to actually uncover the real efficiency for each. That's actually each party's responsibility, right? I think it's probably the carrier's responsibility to show up at the time that they said they were, right? Like, or make other plans, right?
Yeah, you're right. Once you connect these three players together in this exchange, efficiencies definitely flow upstream, but there is a huge benefit for 3PLs and carriers because, first of all, their scorecard, their relationship with the shippers is more based on the data, not pointing fingers at each other. Right? The second part of it is I'm a broker working with you as a shipper, but our relationship impacts my next load, my next shipper's relationship. So that, it's got to be fixed in many ways, right? And if I come to you and say, hey, my trucks are always delayed at your location, you'll say there is no way they're doing that. And you still won't pay the dwell time at that time, right? So,
we haven't even talked about that paying for detention, right? We should probably cover that next.
Yeah, absolutely. So but with the data, we can always fix this. Being transparent, right? It helps.
And thinking about kind of a smaller case study, right? Like are you in the market yet with Q's products?
We are. We have a big chunk of the top 50 3PLs and carriers already live with us. They're booking thousands of appointments every day. Fully automated versus semi-automated. Another topic is, we figured out that a lot of users would love to see the system first, how it works. And when they see that, our user adoption is over 95% today.
I think the problem I think has been really well described, and the solution is really interesting. Thinking about how, we have exited what, was the zero interest rate environment, and how is it different to try to start a new business to, in a freight recession, and one that has now gone on for over 2+ years, and one where capital is harder to come by. It's helpful that you probably had a successful exit in the past, and that second one, which for everybody else, that's not quite as helpful. But it's definitely different, no matter what. And how is this one different than the other two?
First and foremost thing, recession is a great time to start a business. There is no two ways about that. Because everything becomes real. People are not looking for smoking mirrors anymore, right? That's an absolutely good time to start business. If I've started trucker tools during recession, and I wasn't part of Get Loaded, but I believe they started in a downtown as well. The second part of it is, like you said, credibility, right? But not fly by the night kind of a people. Someone who understands our space should solve the problem. In my viewpoint, we see often these new words come through. Hey, this is digitization, this is blockchain, this is so on and so forth. This technology. Now it's AI. Earlier we saw amazing chat on AI. But the problem that I see in our industry is a lot of people outside our industry have no depth, knowledge of our industry. Walk in with these keywords or thoughts with a solution. It's like you're trying to find a horse with a horseshoe in your hand. That's to me, that's not the perfect way of looking at it. A better way is you have to understand the problems deep enough, why they are important to be solved in the first place, and then see if there is a technology that can solve today. Today it's AI. In 5 years, it could be something else that will come and solve the same problem, right? So the problem is the same, right? The second part of it is, as you start solving the problem, the new problems will arrive, which require new solutions. So you have to keep understanding the problem more than the solution.
So I've worked at 5 startups, and FreightWaves is my fifth, and it's constantly interesting. Like each one of them is solving a different problem, and succeeded or failed because they either did or didn't. One of the things that has been unique, I think, about this, how you've started, at least 2 businesses here, is that that you were able to kind of get this adoption early on. I mean, you've got a decent chunk of the top 50 brokers you talked about with Q'd. I mean, you had with your last venture, you had the opportunity to have the largest network of drivers on the road. Like, you figured something out about how to get early adoption to your products. Are you doing that by kind of, I'm going to prove it to you with the product, and then I'm going to come back and monetize? Or like, are you even thinking about monetization right now, or are you still thinking about building?
It's both, right? I mean, you have to monetize a business. There's no two ways that. But the more important thing is, as you start a business, you have to create a moat. Whether it's network, earlier we touched on the network effect, right? Having, in my previous life, for that, aggregating the long tail of carriers, right? Owner-operators was the moat for that business. For this one, having the bridge, the knowledge, the AI, the data, right? So you can't have another Google today. Writing a search engine is easy, but you can't create a Google, right? So Q'd is more like that, right? We've already aggregated with so much of data analysis. So you take those things, every strategic decision you take in the organization has to be thinking about, how do I create a moat for this startup that helps the startup to grow? And so it's balancing act. It's like, you're a conductor, you're orchestrating the,
It is a balance, right? And it's I mean, especially now, right? Like, money is no longer free in this. It's a little harder to raise capital, probably like what it was when I got into it, like 2010, and it was a little harder then. But proving the value up front, going into it with a pretty clear, not necessarily, I think, clear solution, but really clear understanding of the problem and the different ways that this can be solved, right? Because I think, at least as I've understood this and our own problems that we're solving with FreightWaves, and particularly on the Sonar product, is at the end of the day, like, the problem has to be solved 6 different ways, right? And because and as much as we talk about the commoditization of our industry, there's still, everything is an exception. I love that part about what you said here, and that exception creates the opportunity.
You're right. And you have to have patience in building this. You have to understand the problem more, go deep in the problem to understand the value that you can create by creating a good solution. The choice of solution comes later, right? And you can't jump these things. You have to take time to do this.
Awesome. Well, thanks, everybody. We're excited to have had a chance to talk to you, Prasad. Good luck with your new adventure. And everybody, we're excited for the conference to keep going. Have a good one.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.